Hello and welcome to the 8th installment of the Tactics series. We're going to do some quite high level puzzles at this point. And okay, let's jump in. As usual, pause the video before every single puzzle and try to solve it yourself. And then listen to my thought process and how I handle these tactics. So, checks, captures and attacks. What do we have? We have some checks. Queen b5 is a check and a capture. Queen d7 is almost checkmate. Queen d8, not really. So basically two checks. Well, none of them work at this point, I guess. What else? Captures. This is a capture, this is a capture. A rook can be captured. Anything else? Nothing else. And attacks. Oh well, when we can attack the queen in several ways. We can kind of attack the rook, but not really. Anything else? G6, this attacks the bishop. Oh, also there is this capture. But okay, let's look at this stuff. So checks, I think there's nothing good with the checks. Captures, rook takes a6. So this is a capture and an attack. If the queen takes back, then this check is now checkmate. This is why when we saw queen d7, we have to discard the move, but not the idea. So rook takes a6, and we are attacking the queen. If he counterattacks our queen, we will take, and then we will take a rook as well, after he takes our queen. So it seems like this is the correct solution. We are deflecting the queen from d7, and yeah, as mentioned, if here, then we just take the queen, and if he takes, we will be a rook ahead. So okay. Pause the video again, try to figure out the solution, and let's go. So checks, captures and attacks. What's going on here? So checks, there's bishop h4 check. I can't see any other checks so far. Okay, captures, can't really see any captures somehow. So much stuff on the board, but there's no captures. So okay, let's check the checks and captures for now. Checks. King f1 seems like the only legal move. Okay, what are the candidate moves after king f1? Checks, captures and attacks. Well, there's this check, knight e3. After which this is almost checkmate. He has to take with the bishop. And then checks, captures and attacks. We can recapture, of course, but there's also a check with bishop h3. So, and this looks like checkmate. Bishop h4, king f1, knight e3. He is forced to take on e3. Bishop h3, and it seems like the king doesn't have any squares. He is on f1. These are covered by the rook, and these are covered by the bishop, and on f1 he is checked. So this is checkmate. So nice forced checkmate. Sacrifice the knight, but it's simple enough. Okay. Try to pause your video and find the solution yourself again. Okay, what do we have here? Checks, captures and attacks. So there are no checks. The king is over here. So what's next? Captures, bishop takes c2. I guess he can take back with the queen. I can't really see much of a follow-up. This bishop is defended. You can also take back with the king. So I don't see anything with bishop takes c2. Okay, what can we attack? Well, let's start from the biggest piece, the queen. Bishop b4, this does attack the queen. What does white do? Interestingly, the queen can't really move anywhere. All of the squares are covered, it seems, by our pieces. So c3 seems like the only move to not lose the queen with check. After c3, what can we do? Checks, captures and attacks. Now we do have some captures. We don't have any checks. So we can take with the bishop on c3 or with the knight on c3. If the bishop takes, he has to take back. And then we can... what can we do? We can threaten some check, but it doesn't really do much. Otherwise, after c3, we can also take with the knight on c3. I'm threatening checkmate in one, or the rook, or more stuff as well. So I would assume he takes back. And then we have now a check, bishop a3, after which the queen has to block. There's no other move, and we will win the queen at minimum. So this looks like the solution. Let's take. Right, he can give up the queen like this for 2 pieces. But now we have a lot of material. So okay. Next one. Pause the video, checks, captures, and attacks. Interestingly, this is a game by Magnus on Lichess. You don't see it, but it says who has played this game. So what can we do here? Let's play like Magnus. Well, it is a bullet game. So it is an endgame. What can we do here? There's no checks. No, not physically possible at this point. Captures, we can't capture anything. Attacks, well, we can attack the bishop. This makes sense. In general, in these endgame type of exercises, it's usually about pawn promotions, stuff like this. So clearly we want to promote this a pawn. There's not much else to do for white here. So after b4, I guess he has to move the bishop, d6 for example. And then we can try to promote the pawn. a5, he takes, we take back. Okay, and then how do we win this? Not so clear. But now I can see another candidate move, which is a5. So if he takes, we will win the bishop. And if he doesn't take, we will push a6, after which a7 is actually unstoppable. So he can try to bring his king. a5, king d6, a6, king c7, and after a7 he can't stop promotion. Our bishop is guarding this. Otherwise, can he do some kind of counterattacks? d3, but I think we can ignore it as the bishop is protecting the square. So a6, d2, a7, and he can't stop the pawn again. Important that after b5 check we always take the bishop. So let's check that. So a5, king d6, a6. Now he can play b5 check, which is interesting, to get the bishop back to the game. So after a5, king d6, perhaps there are more candidate moves. b4, this actually traps the bishop, kind of. He has to play b5, then we can take the pawn. He will play bishop a7, but then after, for example, king a6, I think we are winning, as we have the connected passed pawns, which will at least go to b6, and from there we should win quite easily. So this is an endgame. It's not really a tactic, but it also requires some calculations. So I'm pretty sure it's a5. The engine just takes, but this is the easy part. But what I wanted to show was, for example, this line, b5, and now we're winning positionally. What else? Yeah, there's not much else. If here, then here, I believe, right? And if here, we go with the king. We promote the pawn, or at least win the bishop. So okay, let's go further. What do we have here? Pause the video, checks, captures, and attacks, and try to find the solution. So our queen has just been taken, which is a sign that we have to probably recapture. But if we look technically, we have more candidate moves. So checks, this and this. There's 2 checks, captures, same moves. So we're left with the same 2 candidate moves. And attacks, well, we're not really in time to attack anything. So these are the only candidate moves. So what's going on? So if we take the queen, he has to go to f1, right, to defend his rook. What can we do there? We can capture the rook. He will take back. We can also give a check there. But if the king goes to d1, I think we're not promoting the pawn. Of course, this rook is also kind of hanging in the air, but I don't see a way to exploit it. So bishop c5, king f1. So rook e1, I don't really see the continuation. What else can we do? So there's no checks and no captures. Rook f5, not good enough. So d2 is left. After d2, if he takes our rook, we will promote it to a queen. So he has to move the rook. This is the conclusion. So rook d1. Then we have to threaten something. Bishop b4. We're threatening rook to e1 check, forking the rook and the king. and if he takes, we will promote with check on e1, or with checkmate. So what can white do there? So the point is here, 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 here. Bishop b4. How is he stopping rook e1 check? He can move the king to f2 to make it not a check, but then we will play rook e1 anyway. Don't really see a move for white to not lose his rook. He can also move his rook somewhere else, like b1 or a1, but it comes to the same thing, to bishop b4. So this seems like the correct solution. Also, if rook e1 and here, then I think we're not really achieving much. Though there is something to be said. After king f2, rook e2 check. That also seems sort of winning. Okay, that's interesting. So here, 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 and the next move we can take the queen. So also if rook f1, then bishop takes c5. So actually this seems more convincing somehow. But there can only be one solution. So let's try to figure it out. So why would bishop c5 not be good? After king f1, d2. I don't really see the point here. Here, king f1, d2. I don't really understand. But okay, let's probably play the more convincing win. Yeah, e2 and the bishop up. Now I'm a bit confused. Why is this not winning? King f1, d2, rook d1, bishop b4. Very nice. King g1. No way. King g1 is also losing. Oh, now I'm confused. It seems like this is also winning for black, according to the engine. So yeah, bishop c5 also wins. So kind of a scuffed puzzle, but okay. Next, pause the video, figure it out. Checks, captures, attacks. What do we have here? Well, we can't check when we're in check usually. So there's really only two candidate moves, king h1 or rook f2. Of course, king h1 is a simple move. Rook f2 is a capture, after which I guess he has to recapture. There's not much else to do. And then what can white do? Checks, captures, and attacks. There's no checks. Captures, there is the bishop capture. It doesn't seem to amount to anything. Otherwise, we also have an attack on the queen. We always have to look for attacks on the queen. Knight g4, which also attacks the rook on f2. So now we're forking the rook and the queen. If the queen moves passively, we will take on f2 and we will have a piece up. Otherwise, what can he do? He can give a check, I guess. King g2, not enough compensation for black. Otherwise, rook takes d2 would be nice, but we will take the queen with check, which is important. So this is correct. This is a fork, and yeah. Okay, I apparently we had to see it this far. Queen g6, which I didn't really consider, but I assume king h1 should be one of the moves, because here h5 is threatened, which is a bit of a serious threat. And moving the king elsewhere doesn't really make much sense, so we will go here, and it's correct. But okay, maybe I should have calculated further to make the solution completely correct. Okay, pause the video again, find the answer here. Checks, captures, and attacks. What do we have? We have a bunch of checks. Rook g1, bishop f4, bishop f2. Okay, captures here or here. Attacks, well, we can attack the queen or something, but but at the moment our rook is hanging, so we shouldn't really attack weak things. But okay, what are the checks? Checks. Bishop f4. What's white doing? So he has king f3 or king g2. If g2, queen g1 is a check. After king f3, queen g3 is a checkmate. Okay, so this leaves him with king f3. What can we do against king f3? Well, there is this check now, queen c3. I guess he has to go to g2 in that case, because if f2 then queen g3 is made. So king g2, okay, then what? Checks, captures, and attacks. So we're talking bishop f4, king f3, queen c3, queen g2, king g2. The checks are queen g3, but he will take the rook, actually, and it's not checkmate because our bishop is now on f4, so we don't really have a follow-up there. So king f3, queen c3, king g2, we can capture a rook, and when he recaptures, we can give this check on g3, which would actually win the rook on h4, and we will be winning. White does have some kind of counterplay here, which we have to keep in mind. So let's take that into account. Bishop f4, king f3, queen c3, king g2, rook h4. And okay, now let's say he gives this check, queen b5. I guess we can move to c7. It seems he is out of check, so queen b5 doesn't really do much. Okay, pretty sure this is the answer. Here, here, and then we take. Yeah, he gives his check, and king c7 was my point. And now we pick up the rook, and there's no perpetual there. Okay, okay. It's getting quite a bit tougher at this point. Okay, pause the video again, figure it out. What are the checks, what are the captures, and what are the attacks? So the checks here, okay, bishop d5 is of course interesting. Captures, one capture is what I can see. Attacks, the queen, let's attack the queen like this, or with our queen, but probably makes sense to attack with the bishop. Oh, what else? What can we attack? The rook? Well, we can kind of attack it. But in general, we have two candidate moves, bishop d5 or bishop c6. So bishop d5, I guess the king should go away. King g7. Any follow-up? Well, there are some candidate moves like bishop e6 or bishop c6 again. Okay, nothing too clear. I don't want to push the king away too early. So bishop c6. This kind of almost traps the opponent's queen, actually. What can he do? The queen can only go to d8, I guess, right? He doesn't really have many other squares. So what can we do after queen d8? There is the check on e8. I'm afraid black can give up his queen for the material, and he would have this stuff for the queen. So after queen d8, I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps this is not good enough. What else can we do? So bishop d5, okay, king g7, let's see. Important to note, if he goes to f8, I think we can trap the queen. Queen a8 check. He moves to g7. And then, no, that doesn't even trap the queen either. So this is the toughest one so far, probably. So bishop d5, king g7. If here, then not really trapping the queens. Bishop c6, queen d8. I think this should be considered. Bishop, rook e8, as mentioned, does trap the queen. Maybe that's the best that we can do. That position is kind of hard to evaluate, actually. Maybe the queen is better than the two pieces in the rook. Though black does have some kind of counterplay with f4 quite soon. I don't really like it. Queen d8, rook e8. Not a big fan of this. So okay, let's say he takes. We have to take, I guess. King takes. Any candidate moves there? Nothing specific I can see. Of course, we do have some positional advantages and stuff, but nothing too convincing. So what else? Bishop d5, king g7, bishop e6, queen d8. Alright, maybe we can give this check after king g7, then bishop c6. So now if queen d8, rook e8 would win a queen for the whole rook. So after king g7, bishop c6, I guess he has to go to f7, right? Right, but then we're not really trapping the queen anymore, it seems. So this is not ideal also. What else can we do? Some kind of queen a8 move comes to mind. This does threaten bishop c6 to trap the queen at once. So okay, let's say queen a8. What can black do about this? I don't think we're threatening stuff with queen g8 because after king h6 we're kind of running out of checks. But queen a8 does threaten bishop c6. But I think after something like f4 the queen can get away. So I'm not a fan of this. So bishop c6, what's happening? After bishop c6, queen d8. It is rather tricky, but I can't really see anything better. After rook e8, and he takes an e8. Maybe I'm not evaluating it correctly. Maybe it's very good. Actually, at the end there we do have queen c8 check, which I somehow forgot. We can take the pawn on f5, which was making trouble. Maybe that's the best we have. Okay. Bishop c6. Yeah, the rook e8 was my point. And apparently this is the best we have. But yeah, this isn't entirely obvious to me. Yeah, the computer gives like a +2 edge. Queen c8 is good enough, d6 is fine. Yeah, this was a bit tough. But okay, we're still in the streak, haven't failed yet. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you tune in to the next episode. See you next time.